Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are kind of taking a little easier comic we picked this week, only because and we knew it was like easier, but this is actually like a super quick read that we didn't.
I didn't know how easy,
yeah.
per se.
But is it a property that no one really talks about that I've heard of. It has a movie on Netflix, or at least it did. It came out on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there. And it's a book called Polar that's from 2012, and this is by a Spanish author named Victor Santos, who he wrote and drew this whole comic as like a web comic, I guess, and then I guess Dark Horse picked it up or like wanted to print it. And one thing I like about this is it is a different format. And specifically, it's like a widescreen format, which really fits it because it really does feel like a movie.
Yeah, it's a very, like you said, almost like cinematic comic.
Yeah, like it would be like, oh, this is literally a widescreen comic. Like you could put it on your TV and it would fill the TV like a movie would. So it's kind of interesting in that way. Also, like a lot of the panels are just one page, which is an interesting thing. I only know of one other person that's done that, and that's Rick Veitch, who in his more recent comics has this thing called panel vision, and so every page is just one panel, and the book is like 190 pages, but it's like technically 190 panels, so it's a really quick read, but it's a cool. You just feel like you're burning through it, but it's like a cool concept, and this kind of had the same feel where you could just push through it and. It's like, maybe a half-hour read if you're really looking at the art kind of thing, but it's like 130 pages. So it's kind of interesting in that way. But I wanted to read this because I really like this author. He's done a lot of stuff since then that I'm reading like currently, and he's got 5 volumes of this book. So this is like one of his, I guess love, passion projects, I guess, kind of thing. So that's why we're doing this. This is volume 1. It's called Came from the Cold. And I will say in the movie, Mads Mikkelsen plays this guy, the main character, and he's fucking awesome in that. Like, I don't know, anything Mads Mikkelsen is awesome, pretty much.
Yeah, he's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, he's great. So the setup for this, I mean, as we're going through it, you might be like, this sounds familiar. And that's because it's very similar to John Wick. Except this came out 2 years before John Wick came out, so technically, John Wick is like this. So, but I'm sure like no one was copying anybody or anything. But like, it's a pretty standard story in general. Like retired hitman or contract killer gets tracked down for some reason, and people tried to kill him, and then he gets revenge, kind of thing. So.
And there's a lot of a lot of elements in this feel like they're either an ode to or like kind of similar to other, I would say, kind of established things like I mean just
James Bond. It really feels like James.
It feels
Bond.
like James Bond. The main character in this very much has a look of like the old 70s 80s Nick Fury. The white Nick Fury.
The white Nick Fury.
Patch.
The Hasselhoff.
Yeah,
Fury.
like this totally could read as like a Nick Fury.
Dude, they should remake this movie with Hasselhoff as the main guy.
And Santos' art in this, at least in his earlier works, from this and the ones I was looking over, it very much kind of feels like that. If you guys are familiar with, mainly on Cartoon Network, the Samurai Jack and Primal series from was it Tartakovsky?
Gennady
Tartakovsky. Yeah.
It's
got a similar feel to it.
It's similar to that. It's like the thick, blocky line kind of thing. It also has a bit of Sin City feel in it, but you haven't read Sin City.
I haven't, but I know what you're talking about.
We're going to
as
rectify
far as the
that
splashes.
Yeah,
And I was gonna say I do like this because it's mainly black and white comic, but there's splashes of color.
There's red. There's the color red in it. Yeah.
And
or orange. I guess dark orange or whatever.
And it works very well though.
Yes. For the most part, I will say this one. Having read some of his newer stuff, this is from 2012. He was not as good at storytelling, I don't think, in this. Like, there were some panels where I was like, wait, what's going on in this? Because he has a lot of pages where he has like a scene of fighting where you're like fist, knife, punch, like all in a row. And you're like, wait, what exactly is happening in this scene? There's even a sex scene in it that like, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I just know there's two people and they're in bed, but I can't tell what's happening in this exactly. So, I think he's gotten better at storytelling and his art has gotten cleaner, which is it's cool to see like an artist or a creator like getting better at their craft over the years, and especially on like the same project. So you can actually go to like the newest book and compare it to the oldest book and be like, wow, I see like big leaps in storytelling and in art, just like crispness and everything. So,
nice.
We'll just start off. We start off on in like. The main character is already retired. He is living in the snow in the mountains somewhere. They don't say where, but he's in a cabin, and he's retired. He's a retired hitman, and we don't really know that at the beginning. We're just like thrown into like, oh, there's a man in a cabin, and he's inside the cabin, and on the outside of the cabin we have. Well, I guess there's like two cabins at the beginning. I forgot about this. So there's a second cabin a little bit away. There's some people that are at the second cabin, and they have been sent to assassinate the main character, whose name is the Black Kaiser. That's his code name, I guess. So we haven't seen him yet, but we see the hit team getting prepared to make the hit on the Black Kaiser, and they're taking snowmobiles. They're setting up positions. One guy's got a gun with a scope and everything, and there's basically a team of 5 people that are in this assassination attempt, and then we cut to the inside of the Black Kaiser's cabin, and he's with a lady, a very sexy lady in lingerie. Yeah, she's in lingerie. They're about to get it on. I love that you're just like, okay, we're starting with him. He's just like, I'm an old man. Where I'm in the middle of nowhere, somehow I met this super hot lady who just, let's fuck in your cabin in the middle of the woods. Or it's very suspicious. I mean, he knows it. We find out later, but like, he's like, all right, let's see where this goes.
See what happens.
It's kind of like James Bond, where that's why I was saying it's like James Bond, where like, he knows like the ladies that are coming to get him, or the ladies that are hitting on him are most of the time double agents or working for the bad guy, but he's willing to see where it'll go. Like maybe he'll get some puss out of it, and then
wow,
I'm going with the theme, the James Bond theme. All right, so maybe he'll get some action. We'll say action, John.
Some octopus
for your baby ears. You can't hear.
No.
But so he's willing to see what'll happen, and then make the move after they've had sex or whatever, to like kill them or fight them or whatever. And so that's kind of what's happening here. She is presenting herself in lingerie, and we cut outside again, and we see the people setting up once again, and they are really, really ready to kill this guy. Like they have assault rifles set up, and they just are prepared, we'll say, but they're not fully prepared. We find out because as we cut to the inside, when the loving kind of starts, the woman is on top of him. They're not naked yet or anything, but like she's just like straddling him or whatever. And then as it starts to get kind of hot and heavy, they definitely are rolling around, we'll say, in the bed. This is one of the scenes I'm like, you can't tell exactly what's happening, but what you know is that they're kind of making out and they're like getting hot and heavy or heavier. And all of a sudden he sees something glint in her mouth. And he's like, what's that? So he grabs his gun, which just happens to be bedside.
We assume just out of
under the pillow.
He
just has it in the blankets, like ready to go.
He's has one hand under the blanket, just holding the gun the whole time.
Yes, and he shoots her in the head, and it's just blam, and like we see just splatter, and like it actually shows. I mean, it's not super graphic, but it definitely shows the gun in her face and you see the word blam, and then there's like splatter behind her head. So yeah, she's dead. And then he like double checks her mouth because that like what was in there, and it was a razor blade. So she was going to like cut his throat in the passions of lovemaking. And this was very much like James Bond to me. Where like even like GoldenEye when that lady like kills you by squeezing you with her legs, and that means that you have to be in between her legs, so it's like perfect for James Bond.
Yeah,
fuckery or whatever. It's just like it's perfect. So he sees, okay, like definitely this lady was here to kill me, and she's probably not alone. So he is like he knows that, and then the people that are outside break in the door, and they're like, oh shit, and he's gone already. And they're like, what? Where can he go? Well, we've got the cabin surrounded. Well, I didn't hear any shots outside or anything. But it turns out he's got like a safe, or not a safe, a escape hatch in his cabin. And of course, there's like a crawl space underneath the cabin. And he's got a, what's that called? A get out bag.
He's got a go bag.
A go bag, that's the word. And so he's ready. He's always prepared for just in case a woman is a double agent. He's ready to go after she betrays him. So he gets under the house, goes around these guys. Like he has like a full like almost set of tunnels, it looks like, that like he goes under the house, and then there's like a little pop-up area that he can come out of. So he actually gets around the guy with the gun, and then he gets his bag out. And I thought this was interesting. I don't know if I've never seen this. Have you ever seen a weapon like this before?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's cool. Yeah, it's like a handgun that you add attachments to turn it into like a rifle.
Okay, I have seen that for like SMG, like different style of weapons. The one that he's got is literally like a Luger from World War II.
Yeah.
So it seems like this is probably a what's it called? Like a self-made addition or whatever.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
it's a lot like Resident Evil, where you can just like, add a stock to your thing, add a scope, add a whatever. Like you could just do that to weapons. It's like that. He's got it all mapped out. Or he's all ready for it. So he does that. He gets his like half rifle. It's still like a handgun, so this still wouldn't work very well. I mean, if you actually had a handgun that just had a stock on it, it's not gonna like make it shoot straighter out of a 4-inch barrel.
Yeah, it's going to shoot straighter, farther.
Better, faster. Yeah. You add a wood stock on anything, it goes at least
just
like a mile. That's what I'm thinking. So
extra 500 yards.
Yes. So he takes aim with his. This was funny. He doesn't even have the scope on the gun because that's how small it is. He's just holding the scope in his hand, which I was like, I don't know how that works, but we're gonna go with it because this guy, he's a trained assassin.
Secret
that
agent
badass.
Man.
Yes. Secret agent man. Yes. So he takes out the guy that was waiting on top of the grassy knoll, or the snowy knoll, we'll say, and with the submachine gun, and that was the shot that everybody now heard, and so they're like, that wasn't a rifle shot, because obviously it wasn't, and so they're like, oh my god, like that guy's dead outside. And then they come out, and he's still able to like work his spy magic in the woods, and gets the jump on all of them pretty much, except one. Most of them, they have like really cool fight scenes in this, I thought, where he's like one-on-one with each of them as they come through the trees, and he always gets the better of them. And it also sets up like how hard he is, like as a character.
Yeah.
Because like. He gets winged in his arm, and it doesn't bother him at all. And then the woman that he was fighting is like, "Fuck you," and then he's like, poof, and just like shoots her in the head. So,
that's one thing. There's very little dialogue in most of this comic. Like most of it is very just like action packed, or
it's like, just scene for scene, and that makes sense for like a web comic. He's doing this now with a current web comic, but he just releases them a page at a time every week. So like I imagine that's how this was released, or at least maybe a couple pages a week or something, or every couple of weeks, and it would read well like that, So and so there's one guy left, and he's got a cell phone, and it's buzzing, and when he walks over to the Black Kaiser, like kind of giving himself up, like, I'm not going to tell you anything, but like my boss wants to talk to you. So the Black Kaiser answers the phone, and they have like a back and forth, and the minion that's there next to the Black Kaiser is like, I'm not telling you shit. And the Black Kaiser's like, I don't want you to tell me anything. And he just shoots him in the head. But we basically find out that these guys weren't, acting alone. Obviously, there was a clandestine
secret organization.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it would be. Their name is Democles. And it's like
their logo is like a big sword through the world, basically.
Yes. So they're one of these. What would you? I mean, it's kind of like Spectre or something from James Bond. It's very much once again like that. So he kind of finds out by talking to the person on the phone, like, okay, this is what it is, and we don't know who that was on the other side of the phone, but we know that now he's like, now I got to take care of these people, and then we see how connected Democles is because they have a fucking satellite that can it's like better than Google Maps. Like it can zoom in to like enhance, and we see like getting closer and closer and closer, and basically it is following it's the people that were there to assassinate its assassins. It was following where they were at, like with trackers or whatever. So the Black Kaiser gets away, and then we cut to Democles, who's now getting reports of in the office, which I thought was fun. There's like a secretary, and it's like, oh my, when it's like deceased, like update status, deceased.
Oh no, I gotta tell the boss all of this. It's horrible.
Yeah, she's not gonna be pleased.
Yeah.
So we find out the boss, at least of this mission, was someone named Miss Vian.
Miss V? I thought it was Miss Vane. Do you know?
Vian? I don't know.
I thought you would say baby, but
Vane Vain.
VAI. Yeah, but I still thought you. I don't know. I thought you maybe might say it.
Fuck if I know, John.
I don't know.
I'm
I thought
just reading
maybe.
it the way it's spelled.
Miss Vian.
Miss Vian.
Miss Vian. Okay, I don't know.
Fuck if I know, John.
I was just.
You're confusing everything. But Miss Vian. Now I got a little confused in this, and this is one of the things. So they cut to from the secretary, a woman with red hair, about to have sex with a very large. This was like a Frank Miller villain to me, like from Sin City or even like 300 or something, where there's just like this giant guy who's like 4 times bigger than a normal man. And he's like huge and fat, and he's ugly and everything.
But he kind of also looks like a baby.
Yes,
in the face,
look like a big baby. And this woman, this red-haired woman, who's all voluptuous and everything, and smaller, much smaller than him. She looks like a normal size human. He looks, like I said, 4 times bigger than a regular human. And she's like on his belly, like a cat or something. And she's on a mission to kill this guy, and she does like the 5-finger palm death punch or whatever from Kill Bill, and like kills him. And so is this Miss Vian? Because I thought maybe this was a second person.
No, I think it is because it's very similar fighting style to when we.
Yes, later on when they fight, it was, but like for some reason I thought there were, because there's another, like there's this person they cut to who's in like a meeting with a bunch of other people, and I thought that was like, wait, is there another redhead, or is this the same redhead? So that was what I'm talking about. We're like, oh, there's some parts where I'm like, it wasn't as clean storytelling wise as it would be now.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because you're limited on the palette, right? So if you're gonna have a red-haired girl, it should be the same red-haired girl. But because they're like cutting to different scenes, we're like with her, but without saying like later or in the room next door or something, so it's the same woman but in a different area. You're just supposed to go with it. So we find out like she's with all these other people from Democles. They're talking. They're like, yes, we're taking the plans to take over the world are going swimmingly. So these are like the bosses that run it. We find out that she is kind of like just one of the like head assassin organizers for them, basically. Like she's working for them, and they're the actual owners of the company or whatever, Democles.
Yeah. And
she's trying to look good for them. And like, she wants to be a leader and like she wants to be in the office, but also she gets out and every now and then to still get her feet wet on the street, which is what her killing that big fat guy was.
Yeah.
So she's still like an assassin, but they are kind of pissed at her because she set up this, mission to kill the Black Kaiser, and it did not go well. We lost 5 men, they say. And she kind of can't believe. She's like, this fucking old dinosaur took out 5 of our best assassins. And yeah. they did, or he did. So then we cut to Black Kaiser. He is now finding the car that the assassins drove there in, and we see there's like a whole like attaché case full of files on him, and it's top secret, and that's when we find out his name is the Black Kaiser. We're 54 pages in, and that's when we learn
his name.
Yeah, the Black Kaiser. So, and yeah, they have a whole like information file on him, and I thought this was cool because I forgot, or I didn't quite understand that at the beginning they were at a different cabin when I first read this. So now he's like, okay, there's more than just the people that were at the cabin that I was at, so I'm gonna go find them, and he like tracks them down and goes to that cabin, and then they're like sitting inside and they're talking to each other like, wow, that team, you think they'd be back already?
Yeah, they've been gone for a while now.
Yeah, and then he just like walks in and they're like, what the, and they say like, what time? And then they turn around and he's like there, and then it's just like bam, 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 bam. As they stare at him for a second like, what? And then one guy's got like 2 cups of coffee in his hand. No one's able to reach for guns or anything. And yeah, so it's pretty much straightforward. He just shoots all of them right in the head. And then he finds a card on the table between these men who are like playing poker or whatever, trying to kill time. And it's got lipstick on it, and it's got that sword going through the world symbol. So he's like, that was on the paperwork that they had in the attaché case. So interesting. So he takes that information and drives away. And then we cut back to the red hair girl, or the red hair woman, Miss Vian, or Miss.
We'll go with me.
Okay, Miss Vian, and she is talking about how she likes to get her hands dirty still, and then she's like training with some of the new recruits to the assassin organization, and there's some guy she's talking to. We don't really know who he is, but his name was it Blut or Blut?
I think Blut.
Okay. So we don't see him for a bit, but he's talking to her like in this training room where she's like in a gi. There's a bunch of other guys with gis, and she's like taking them out one at a time, showing off her skills and how skilled she is in fighting. And yeah, like we just see like she's pretty badass. And the guy that's watching her, Mr. Blut, he's like, oh, like these rookies, did they pass the test? She's like, yeah, they're fine. Like they weren't even rookies. They were fully trained agents. I just like to keep my skills honed, kind of thing. So then we see Mr. Blut finally, and he's like he's the creepiest guy in this for sure. Like
by far.
I thought he was like old, but apparently he's like a younger guy. Cause
yeah, I took him as old too.
That's like what I'm saying. The art, like sometimes I wasn't sure exactly because he draws like kind of I thought there were wrinkles, maybe they're just dimples on his face or something. Because later on when he's fighting the Black Kaiser, like he's like, you're the old, I'm the new, and you know.
That's true. He did. I didn't make that connection. I thought again, he's old, but maybe not as old as the Black Kaiser.
Yes, and so he's talking to her, and he's like, oh, you did pretty good, very exciting show, and then he's another boss, kind of like Miss Vian. So he's kind of like, oh, you can't get it done? Well, let me get it done. I'll take care of it. So then we cut to 800 miles and 14 hours later, and we're in some town. They don't give us like actual locations, but European town, we're kind of assuming. And especially based on like where he's going. It's snowing always, and there's like a bar that says like Ye Old Tavern on the front of it. So it's like, okay. So the Black Kaiser's going there to this tavern to meet a fellow older agent, like a guy who's not in the game anymore, but he knows.
But he might have some information.
Yeah, like it seems like maybe he's been up in the scene more recently than the Black Kaiser. And they never say his name, right? I never got a name from him. Not that I saw. At least.
No, I don't think so. I don't see a name I wrote down for him.
Yeah, he's just an older spy, and Black Kaiser shows him the card with the lipstick and the logo, and he's like, "Hey, do you know who this is? Just I don't want a name. I don't want an address, or I want an address. I don't want a telephone number or email or anything. I just give me the fucking address. Like we'll go after this." And he does get the address, and he also gets the woman's name because the Black Kaiser's like, I talked to a woman on the phone. So who is that? Who would be in charge from them? And he's like, do you know who Damocles is? He's like, yeah, of course. We've all worked for these different organizations. Like they're all for hire. Right?
Yeah, assassins for hire.
So they all of these people have worked for many different organizations, and Damocles is one of them. And so he's like, that must be Miss Vian, because there's not many female bosses, I guess, that run organizations or work for organizations like that. So he tells Black Kaiser the name and writes down the address of where you can find her. And then Black Kaiser's like, great, we won't see each other again, thanks. And the guy, Black Kaiser leaves, and the guy like gets a phone ring, and it's basically like he's working for Democrats. Yeah. So he alerts. We're supposed to assume he alerts them about, Black Kaiser's whereabouts and what's going to happen.
He's on the move.
Yeah. So, and he's not on the move for very long, because when he leaves he leaves the tavern, and he's walking on the street, and he notices someone's following him. So Damocles was already onto this. They already knew. Maybe they were alerted by the guy, because obviously the Black Kaiser was like, meet me here, old friend of mine. And the old friend was like, sure. And then told Damocles this is what's going on. So Black Kaiser's walking, and the man following him is Mr. Blute. We can tell by the way, like, this is interesting. It's very, like we said, most of the comic is black and white, but they like single him, Mr. Blute, out in orange, so for sure, like, this is a bad guy kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's got like kind of a specific pair of sunglasses that he's wearing all the time.
Yes. And so we have never seen Mr. Blute fight or anything, and you think, okay, we just saw the Black Kaiser take out multiple skilled assassins, and of course the Kaiser is aware that Blute is behind him. So as Blute gets closer, Kaiser turns around, and he thinks he's going to be able to get the drop on him. He shoots, or he pulls his gun out, but Blute, knowing what was going to happen, kind of like doesn't move, where he like falls to the side, and he had like a needle in his hand with, I'm assuming, some kind of tranquilizer. Yeah. So he tranquilizes the Black Kaiser, and then Blute's like, you think you're a tough guy, huh? Like, I like how he says like you're wise and hard like a mountain, but mountains are not made of flesh and blood like you. So it's very like menacing bad guy. And I thought this part was actually really cool. They don't tell you how long he was in this guy's like dungeon or whatever, but basically Mr. Blute takes the Black Kaiser to some unknown location where he chains him up in like and I don't even know if it's a cell, but in a like a room, and there's a manacle around his neck, and that's tied to his hands through a chain, and he can't really move, and he's got a bag over his head, and they put him in like a jumpsuit, and his feet are chained as well, and they're calling him prisoner 1151938S. Like, so it's like, how many prisoners do you have? Why isn't it just prisoner 1 or whatever, or like just prisoner, like
prisoner of interest?
Yeah. So there's multiple people here. It looks like a gated facility, like literally a prison, where they keep people for like torture. It's basically like a Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
It's their Gitmo. So,
and I mean, he goes through like this series of events, and it's very much like you said, kind of like, a dungeony torture thing, and it's like, they spray him with a hose, and they're like, wash. And then he he finishes with that, and then they send him to an area, and they're like, walk. And then like he doesn't even get to like hold things himself. They're like put food in his face, and they're like, eat.
Yeah.
And like that, and that's kind of like a routine that we find out he kind of gets into.
Well, and the last thing that they do is every day they always say pain. It says pain, and they torture him. They cut him, like specifically Mr. Blute cuts him with a knife, like a scalpel or whatever, and just like tortures him. It's very creepy. And this was cool, just like the way they show it, and like he's slicing his body up all over, little cuts. It's 1,000 little cuts,
little baby cuts.
Yeah,
it's it's kind of like what's his face before he would like flay you from Game of Thrones, the Ramsay, who cuts off the
Bolton.
Yeah, he cuts off, but he's like before he cuts off the manhood, but he's like, just like a little cut here, a little piece of a finger, just little things like that. That's
yeah. So I mean, he's not cutting off wieners or anything, but
no, but like very small cuts and little, just very sadistic.
Yeah, in strategic places. But Mr. Blute's not satisfied because the Kaiser is not giving him any information or anything. It seems like, what information are you trying to get? Like, he's not really asking him any questions or anything. He's like, normally when I torture people, I'm trying to get information, but torture without information or like some end goal is kind of not as satisfying, So this has been not satisfactory in the least, is what he says. So, but one thing that he does every time when he's mad at like the torturing not being satisfactory is he will like hit the Black Kaiser's face into the ground, and I'm assuming there's like tile on the ground because they specifically show after many, many times of this torture, one of the tiles breaks, and the Black Kaiser is smart enough to grab a piece of that sharp tile in his mouth and then holds it there. And then he's left in the dark again, and with that tile in his mouth, the sack is over his face. He takes the tile and he cuts through the bag that's over his head. And then somehow, they don't show how he does it, because still, like, a piece of tile can't pick a lock. But
he's also like MacGyver.
MacGyver. He's MacGyver with this, MacGruber, Yeah. So he picks the lock of, I guess it's the ones on his hands, and then he can get the ones on his neck as well. So, but he still, like, holds them like they're on him. And then when the guards come next time, they release, like, he breaks out, kills them. And I like how he's just like karate chop, chop, like he's kicking their ass. And then he takes their guns and shoots them in the head. Now he's got his own, he takes their like weapons and suit and everything. Now he looks like a spy again. He kind of looks like Nick Fury in this panel.
Very much so.
And this was fucking awesome. This was like literally Old Boy or something, like, or it's John Wick, or very much like that kind of stuff.
Or even 300 here in these kind of just like
yes.
a panel of fighting and like just him charging forward.
Specifically the way it is, it's a sideways view of the fighting. So yes. You see him on one side of this page, because each panel is a page in this specific scene. And you see all these other guys at the end of the hall on the other side of the panel. And then he's running towards them like a side scroller. And it zooms in every time. Like every next page you turn is another zoom in to what's going on in the fighting. So it's like him running, and then him closer, and then him grabbing the first guy and hitting him with a baton. And then every time it gets closer and closer and closer.
Oh no, I was gonna say I didn't want me to cut you off. Well, this made me think of like the Punisher too, the escape from
Punisher. I was gonna say Daredevil. They do that scene in Daredevil in the first season.
Yeah, so Daredevil was like when Punisher is getting out of that fight in prison too.
He's like,
yeah. Very much just he is like he is an assassin. He's like he can be skillful in his kills, yes. Or he can be brutal like this, and it is just gory. Dude, like this gory without being gory.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite like scenes because. Like he obviously everybody's in silhouette, so you only know it's him because he draws the eye patch in white. So everybody else is blacked out in shapes, like they're person figures, and then the page is just covered with black, orange, white, black, orange, white, like just spattered everywhere. Like that's the blood, right? Like it's just crazy.
What's the artist?
Jackson Pollock.
Jackson Pollock.
It's Jackson Pollock.
Just all over this
of violence and mayhem.
Yes.
Actually, that would be a really cool piece of art to have, like that, and just be on your wall and be like, "What's that?" Oh, it's my Jackson Pollock. But yeah, you can see like he is having a blast getting revenge on these fuckers who've kept him. We don't know for how long they were there. I mean, they showed the cycle of torture, walking, eating.
This was his eat, pray, love, but it was like eat, pray, kill.
Yes, there you go. Eat, pray, love, torture, revenge. So,
yes.
so yeah, he escapes, and then we cut to a room where we see Mr. Blute, and Mr. Blute's taking care of some loose ends, and that loose end is the son of a bitch friend, or the old assassin that was meeting with the Black Kaiser at that bar. Turns out Mr. Blute killed him too, just because, why not? It's a loose end. So
yep.
Mr. Blute takes care of him, and then he gets a phone call, and he's like, what? And he looks at it, and he's like, what's he done? Because he's killed everybody. He's killed all the guards. Black Kaiser has killed everybody in this prison, and then we...
What do you mean he killed everyone?
Everyone. Yeah, so we see the Black Kaiser, he's definitely... OP'd, we'll say, and it's like
yes.
we don't know how long he's been starved and tortured and everything, but somehow he's able to beat all these guards and jump over the 10-foot tall barbed wire fence like backwards, like he did like a pole vault, like backwards.
We didn't see the trampoline. That was
we didn't. No,
he got a running start.
Yeah, but he jumps over and he escapes, and then Mr. Blue flies there and sees the mayhem that happened. He's like, "What the fuck?" Then we cut to a woman we haven't met before. Do you know what her name?
Yeah,
Irina.
It was Irina. Yeah.
Yeah, and she knows Black Kaiser, so he just shows up at her door and he's like, he knocks, and she obviously is some kind of at least aware of spies and stuff because she's very cautious.
Well, we learned she's a weaponsmith.
Right, and she was the daughter of like another assassin, so that's how he knows her.
Yeah,
and she, I guess took up the family trade and was like
best goddamn weaponsmith I know.
Yeah, for multiple kinds of weapons.
Hmm.
So he knocks on the door, and she's got like a gun holstered right there waiting, and so she doesn't know who's at the door. She kind of holds the gun behind her back and is ready to go. As she opens it and sees Black Kaiser there, and he's like, Irina, and he falls flat. So obviously, we do see some realism where, like, okay, obviously the torture and the fighting has taken its toll on him.
Yeah.
But luckily, she lives in the same town as that prison.
Somewhere close.
Sure, close by. So she gives him, like, a drug, I guess, to maybe it just, like, chills him out for a bit so that he doesn't move and can recover. I don't know what it is, but she's like, you're not going to like it, but it's a very nice poison, but it's still poison. So maybe heroin or something like that, like fentanyl, whatever.
Yes, something to take the edge off, but...
Exactly. So he like has some kind of crazy flash dream that's like a horror sequence where he sees like the woman he killed at the beginning with her head blown off, and she's got like a sharp claw on her hand that's all bloody, and then he sees like the faces of all the people he's killed in this comic. And they're like skeletons and stuff. And full moon, you got to have a full moon in the comic. And then he sees Blute like being a puppet man, like he's got spider webs on him, but like it looks like he's a puppet or something for Damocles, I'm assuming is what it is. So it's all like in his mind, in his dream. So it's kind of like not clear exactly what's going on, but it's a dream sequence. So he wakes up and he's kind of disoriented at first, like, where am I? And then he sees a picture on the dresser, and he sees, it's like a picture of him and the dad of this girl. And he knows, it's the dad of the girl because the dad has a tattoo on his hand. And then he looks over at the bed and he sees the girl, and she's got a tramp stamp of the same tattoo.
Same tattoo. Of course, that's where you get the tattoo.
Well, where else are you gonna put it? And the tattoo is just kind of like I don't know if it's like a butterfly or some kind of.
I thought it was like a maybe like a bird, like maybe.
There's wings. It looks like wings of some kind. Maybe it's a bomb. Maybe it's a bomb that's exploding.
Oh, maybe.
Who knows? But yeah, so he looks over and he sees her sleeping. He's like, okay, cool, I'm okay. So then he takes a shower, shaves, gets all like clean and proper, and then he comes out of the shower and she's working on her weapons. This is where we find out she's like a weaponsmith, like you said, and she's got like basically. Have you seen the Jackal, right, John?
Yeah.
So this is basically the gun from the Jackal that Jack Black builds.
Yes.
Where like, except it's a laser guided gun, so it's like a turret gun that swivels and moves on its own wherever you point this laser. So it's a laser guided gun. So it's pretty fucking cool. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, I've been working on this," and he's like, "That's fun." And she's like, "Yeah," and then. She's showing him all the weapons that she has for him. And then, she just, as you do, falls on the bed and is like, oh,
I fell over.
Yeah. And they kind of have a little small talk, but she just like grabs him and like pulls him down on the bed. So, they start their loving. And this was the scene I was like, I don't know what they're doing, but they're definitely making love. There's some scenes where I'm like, I mean, it looks like she's on top of something. I don't know. There's weird like poses, we'll say.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say some of this looks like a human centipede if it was in silhouette. I don't know what's going on. But what we do know is that it's loving is what it is.
Yes.
So they make love, and he's satisfied, she's satisfied, and we see it seems like he sets up the turret gun for what happens next.
Yeah.
Because it's nighttime. The turret gun, we get a panel of it just sitting there like looks like it's ready to be set up, and then he wakes up early, and he takes it outside, or we don't see him take it outside, but we assume this is what happened because he just walks outside of her house, and he just looks up at the sky, at the satellite presumably, and goes, "Hello, here I am," and just like gives him a wave.
Yeah, I love that. He like looks up and he's like, "What's going on? Here I am." Yeah.
And then we see the satellite, and it's like, of course it's like locked onto him, and it's like searching file Black Kaiser download, and then like before anyone really has time to act, everybody already rolls up. Like it's like they were already looking for him in the area, and they just roll up in cars, and it's everybody. It's Blute and all of his minions and that he can assemble, and yeah, we see him. He puts his hands up, and he's like, "Well, that didn't take long." And the best, like, I guess she maybe lives in an old church or something, because there's like a crucifix behind him with Jesus on it, and it's like he puts his hands up, and Jesus is behind him with his hands up.
Yeah, it's very, very good symbolism.
Yeah, and then you just see all these guns pointed at him, like around him, and in his hand that he's holding up, one of them, he's got the laser pointer that Irina gave her, or gave him. And so you're like, okay, shit's about to go down. So everybody's got their guns pointed. Mr. Blute is like, haha, we've got you. I can't believe it was so easy, you know? Like, you so ready to die? And he's like, he just kind of smiles. He smirks. And Black Kaiser points the laser at one of the guys, and all of a sudden, boo, 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 boo. All these guys start dying. And he's just walking through. They're shooting at him, but he's like, they're missing because they're like confused about what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's like they're shooting at him, but then they're also trying to figure out who's shooting at them, but they don't know it's like a turret gun. And there's more than one turret gun, by the way. There's like 3 turret guns. He's got them all set up. So he's just mowing all these people down as he leisurely strolls.
It's just what I imagine here is like him just like slowly walking, and just like gunfire and bodies just like falling all around him.
Yeah, and he does a really good job of like, you see people like getting shot, and then there's like little circle panels that are close-ups of where the bullets are hitting. So it's like a really well done like way to translate them getting shot. Instead of having separate panels for each one and broken up in a grid, this is just like one big panel with little dots that kind of highlight where they're getting hit. So pretty much everybody gets killed except for Blute. Blute is like the last one there, and like somehow he's not gotten hit by all these bullets, even though everybody else around him is just getting murdered. And he looks very like, what? Like, and then he yells out, "Freeze, you bastard!" And he pulls the gun on Black Kaiser. And I thought this was pretty like, they're like 10 feet apart, and somehow Black Kaiser's able to get the jump on him, and without a gun out or anything, Black Kaiser points the laser that's in his hand. Obviously, I would think Blute would know that is the...
Yeah, at this point, he's seen how many people die, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So, but he's able to point at the gun, and the laser, or the laser-guided gun shoots the gun out of Blute's hand. And so then Blute pulls out his knives, and, you know, we've already seen he's pretty skilled with, you know, hand-to-hand combat. And so, you know, we assume it's going to be kind of a well-matched fight, but this is pretty one-sided. Black Kaiser's prepared now. He's not getting the jump on... Blute's not getting the jump on Black Kaiser this time. So Black Kaiser, like, does like a karate chop, and then like that was the other thing. Like, it's very... That's the James Bond influence as well. Like, he's like, and just hits the guy's wrist, and Blute drops his knife, and then Black Kaiser gets him in a chokehold, and then you just hear like, and then, you know, you assume he snaps his neck or whatever, and rips his head off. I don't know. There's blood. So
something.
It looks pretty graphic. And then Black Kaiser, as he's like getting ready to leave, we see Irina come out, and she's like, "Do you really have to go?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "It's cold outside, you know." And he's like, "I know." So that's his, "I love you. I know." Yeah. But yeah, you see, you know, he can't be tied down to a woman, you know. He's the Black Kaiser.
"Baby, it's cold outside." And he's like, "Yeah, what about it?"
Yeah. I gotta go. It's the reverse of "Baby, it's cold outside." So now he does still have the card with the address on it that his friend, who is now dead, or not his friend, the assassin who turned on him, the double agent, gave him. And so he's got that address. He shows up, And when he shows up, he goes, it's like an office building, basically. He goes there, and the lady in the reception is like, "Oh, we've been waiting for you, Mr. Kaiser." Like she's expecting you. And they go all the way up to the top penthouse, and he finally gets introduced to Miss Vian. And this is like the most dialogue, or not even dialogue, it's like a monologue, in the whole comic is just her explaining why they go after him, like why they went after him in the first place. Because that's been like the whole thing. Like, they went after me. Why? He's trying to figure that out, but he doesn't really care. He just wants them to stop going after him, and that means them being murdered. So,
and it's interesting because it's basically like she just says we're closing old loopholes from what did she say, from the
past. I mean, basically, Democles is trying to rebrand or something. Yeah. Like they're going through an organizational change, and so they're like, well, she's trying to look good to her new bosses by taking care of old agents who have information that could be used. So she says, it's not easy to get into this private sector, and it requires huge sacrifices. And basically, everybody who's ever worked for us has information on us. So I can't just to look good. I've decided I'm going to try to wrap up these loose ends. So that's why we picked you. It's not like it wasn't just you, it was anybody who's all these old people. And he's looking at her, and he's like, why, I can't, he's just pissed off. He's like, so you want to please your bosses by closing old files, cleaning house, and wiping out retired agents. And as he's saying that to her, she kind of reaches down in her drawer on her laptop, there's a gun. And she reaches down, and then fight scene starts.
Yeah, and that's one thing I really did like about this is that you can kind of use, again, he's a badass, and it kind of shows different ways that he, from a stealthy kill to a more, just blazing, like the escape fight where he just kicks ass. The fight scenes in this get progressively longer within the panels.
Yes.
Like one will go for the first couple were a page or two because he's taking out the easy people. And the next ones were maybe 3 or 4, I think that last lady he fought in the woods was 3 pages. Right. And then the
when he's getting out of the prison, that's longer.
Yeah, it's maybe 10 or so. And then this one I counted. This was 12 pages of them back and forth.
Yes, and these are full page panels. Like I was saying, they it's very interesting that he's going a full page. Yeah. There's no extra panels or anything. There's multiple movements in the panel, so it could be 2 panels or 3 panels, but it's just them in one area, then them in the next area, and then they're all doing different.
And she's giving him a run for his money. She's definitely hitting back pretty hard.
Yes, and they're kind of doing gun fu, and like I said, this is before John Wick, so it's kind of cool to see that. And they both have guns, and they're shooting each other, but barely missing. And then they both end up getting a shot on each other. She gets winged in the side, he gets winged in the leg, and then they both go down. And then he gets shot in the shoulder, she gets shot in the foot. So they're both. Like you said, tit for tat. It seems like they're very evenly matched.
Yeah.
And then it ends up with her kind of straddling him on the floor. And then I think he stands up because it looks like she's grabbing him around the waist with her legs, kind of like in GoldenEye. Yeah. and then he ends up kind of grabbing her hand so she can't do anything. And he's like, "Are you tired?" And she's like, "I'm just sick and tired of everything." And then she looks at him, and it's she's trying to use her last weapon, which is her feminine wiles. And she says, "Kiss me or kill me, soldier." And then he just fucking blows her away.
All right.
Yeah, boom. And she's like, "Well, that's not a very good kiss. It tastes like blood." And then she dies. And then we're left with the cliffhanger for the next book.
Then he does her.
Yes.
No.
Wow, John.
No.
That would be a different.
I'm just saying that would be a crazy
ending.
Yeah. Yes. No, of course not. No. He just leaves her body there.
Yes. But she does get one thing out, which kind of sets up the next volumes, I'm sure, which are, "We are the sword against the neck of the world. We will find you." So he knows it ain't going to end with her.
Mm-hmm.
Democles is going to go after me. But before he does that, he goes to her computer and he takes a flash drive out, and I guess it's got like maybe the key code or something that's needed to get on, like to bypass all her securities. And
he's a super spy. He's got whatever he needs.
Sure, yeah. And that allows him to delete his file on the Black Kaiser from her computer. And I'm assuming...
I assume it's the network.
Yeah, there wasn't a cloud back then, maybe, but the intranet of Damocles. He deletes all his information off of it. Then we get an epilogue, which says somewhere in the Norwegian Sea. And we're on like a freighter, and we see there's a man sleeping and another man that's got a knife, and he's like, haha, this guy doesn't have any friends or family. He's the new guy. I can take all his shit and kill him and throw him overboard, and no one's going to miss him. And then as he goes to stab the man who's sleeping, the knife is hit out of his hand, much like with Blute. It's like, ka karate chop. And it turns out that man that was sleeping is the Black Kaiser, and he's in, I guess, incognito on this ship. He kills that guy and throws him overboard into the ocean, and then he smiles and like looks at the camera all like, yeah. And that's pretty much it. And we get like a little bonus story at the end, which is like I'm assuming it's like an old Black Kaiser, what happened one time on some mission. And I like this. I thought it was cool. This has no words in it. It's all kind of pictorial. So you're getting like Black Kaiser. He's been caught. He's getting beat up by a couple people. And there's a woman who's asking him for money, but she's not saying it in words. We're just seeing a panel that has a bunch of money in it. And then he smiles at her, and then we see he says something, but it's just a picture of a safe. So he's like, it's in the safe. And then she's like, then she's leaving and waving goodbye with the goon standing next to him. And then we see out of her mouth, a skull comes out. So it's like, kill him, boys. Yeah. And then and I thought this was great. There's two goons, and one of them, there's like a jester emoji coming out of his mouth, and then the other guy has like another kind of silly gesture. And then the Black Kaiser looks up and smiles, and then there's a finger emoji, and then he like leans forward or like throws himself forward and knocks them off their feet, and he's able to break out of the chair enough to get his hands free, but they're handcuffed, and he's able to strangle the men with the handcuff, and then he takes their gun and shoots the woman, and she dies, and that's it. Like, so it's just like a cool little thing.
It's another little fun fight.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously that was a webcomic too. He wanted to throw in as part of like this collection. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the comic. And then, like I said, they set up, the future volumes. Obviously, he's going to be going after Damocles continuously.
Damocles, I'm coming for you.
I'm coming, Damocles.
Take down this whole organization.
Yeah.
Who is in charge of Damocles?
Who is number 2, or who does number two work for? Yeah. So that is it, John. What did you think? What would you give it?
I liked it a lot. It was fun. Like you said, it was a quick read, very cinematic, very much. Until we talked about it afterwards, I didn't know there was a movie. I was like, I could totally see this is a movie. And then, the art was cool. There were, like you said, there's maybe once or twice, but overall, like I feel like I got it where everything was going, what was going on the pages.
Yeah.
It's a simple story, and it's like you said, spy, straightforward, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So it's just, if that's your, if you like those kind of things, this is definitely right up your alley.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the story, while simple, easy to follow, and it still had a couple, little, it gave a couple little extra, not necessarily twists, but like.
Well, I wouldn't have seen like him getting captured and tortured for an extended period of time, stuff like that.
That's true. So it gave you a couple moments of like, oh, what is going to happen here? So I did like that too. It wasn't quite like you
it wasn't by the numbers.
Exactly. It was like he didn't come out on top of every situation right away.
Yeah.
Sometimes he did have to work it out. So that was cool.
Yeah, and I feel like this kind of suffers from. Obviously, like John Wick has come out now, 3 movies of that. Yeah. And like, there's other kind of properties that are similar to this, but this came out before that in comics. So it's kind of like, if you listen to music, like if you listen to metal now and you start off with that and then you try to go back and listen to like Metallica or something from the 80s,
yeah,
you're like, oh, what is this, classic rock? Like it's so far removed, or it's like it's already... That has grown from that. So when you go back and look at the original stuff, sometimes it doesn't have the same gravitas that it had before.
Yeah.
I don't think this suffers from that extremely, but it does have that because John Wick has come out. We've all seen that. It definitely has like, oh, this would have been really unique when it first came out, and there's a little bit of, lackluster just because of we've already seen all this in media before since then. So, but yeah, anyway, continue.
Yeah, so I liked it a lot. I would say overall, I would give it, if it's the first one, and we don't get too much backstory, which is good and bad. Like, I would have liked to know a little more. I would probably read, especially because of how quick it is. I would probably read the rest of them just because I want to know his backstory.
Assuming all of them are this quick.
Yeah. So I would probably give this one I would probably give it an 8.
Really?
I think so. I really enjoyed it.
You gave Mouse an 8.
Did I really?
Yes.
Oh, dang. Well, now you're no, I like it.
No, you have your.
I said 8.
Yeah, you stick by your 8. That's fine.
That's right.
Okay, so I mean, I'm going to give this only because I've read this guy's more recent stuff, and this is rougher than that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this first story, it had a little bit of issues with storytelling in the panels because he was being very, pushing himself as an artist and as a storyteller. So he's going outside of his comfortability boundaries.
I know what they were doing in all of those sex.
I bet you. Yeah, I know you did.
I don't know why you couldn't.
You're like, obviously, I've read the Kama Sutra. I know exactly what's happening in each one of those panels. So I've read the Kama Sutra back in front.
Backwards. Right? I know that book cover to cover.
Yeah, so I know you do, John. Okay, we're not as all experienced as you. So anyway, I just thought okay, this is definitely him in 2012 as he's learning his language of telling these stories the way he wants. So I thought, okay, this is fun, but it's for his stuff comparatively now. I'm okay, this is a little average. It's above average. And since our average is 5, I was going to give it a 5.5 because I think it is good. I think it's fun to read. It's a quick read. I could also see this being something that people might not be fully satisfied by for paying $20 for the hardcover or because it is a 135 or 100 and whatever.
Oh yeah, okay. Book. No, if I pay $20 for that, I'd be like,
I think really it's a hardcover, so it is $20. Okay. So and then digitally it's $10, but still it's a pretty quick read. So I could see people being like, this one. I liked it, but it wasn't worth $20 or something, Yeah. So I could see that for sure. But we read this on Hoopla. So if you have Hoopla and you're in America, I'm assuming, and you have the library app that has this on it, all the volumes were on our Hoopla. So you can check that out for free there. All you need is a library card. And so I feel like a 5.5 is fine for what it is for his first work, and also the value. Not for the work itself, but in the print form would be, I wouldn't want our readers to be like, they said it was awesome. And then I go to they go to the store. No, you do. That's why I'm here. I balance it out.
Yes.
We both have it. But yeah, so I would feel bad if a reader or a listener was like, I'm going to go read this awesome book they were talking about and then spend $20 and then read it in 15 minutes and then was like, okay, I feel kind of cheated a little bit on that. So unless it's really your thing, these wordless panel kind of books or whatever, where you're just looking at every panel intently and knowing what's going on. So, but yeah, I'm going to give it a 5.5. I think it's not his strongest work, but it definitely is a really good setup to a series. And I kind of want to read all of the next ones to see how he grows and how it looks later on and stuff. So, and how good at storytelling he gets through these books. Because this is practice. The more you do this, the better you get at it. And I've read some of his recent stuff that's not part of this series, and he definitely has a way better way of telling stories now through these wordless panels. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 5.5. You give it an 8. John, what are we reading next week?
Next week, we are diving into our... we said we would circle back, and so we're circling back now. This is the new 52 version of Animal Man.
Animal Man Volume 1 by Jeff Lemire. So for those of you who don't know... We've read a couple of his now. We've read a couple. We read...
Sweet Tooth?
Sweet Tooth, yes. And... Sweet Tooth.
Okay, we'll leave Sweet Tooth, yeah.
We read Sweet Tooth. I'm sure... I've read a bunch of his stuff, personally, but I haven't...
Oh, didn't he do Essex County?
Yeah, but we haven't read that yet on the podcast.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I guess... I guess you did it, and then I think I read the first one of it because you did a little mini review on that. Then, right?
No. You're going crazy, John.
No, didn't we do six? Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Harrow.
What are you talking about?
When we did the 13.
Oh, the horror book. Okay, yeah, that's not Jeff Lemire. That's Colin Blood.
That was my bad.
John's going crazy. He's getting his indie creators messed up.
Yeah, well, it's because the comic names they're
similar.
You're a little similar. That was
anyway. Yeah. So Animal Man, we did that with the Grant Morrison one, Volume 1, which is from the 80s, a month ago, and I told our subscriber, or Patreon subscriber, or patron. That's the word. Patron. Otaku Mike, because he's a big fan of Jeff Lemire and Animal Man. He wanted to know about Animal Man, and I asked him, well, do you want the Grant Morrison one, or do you want the Jeff Lemire one? Because I know you like Jeff Lemire. And he's like, well, you pick. So I picked the Grant Morrison one just to give us a little bit of, like a baseline for what Animal Man is. And then I figured we'll just hit up the New 52 version of Animal Man, which is the stuff from the 2010s by Jeff Lemire. And we can compare and contrast and kind of look at that. So next week we're going to read that. I've read this full run. It's fucking fantastic.
I'm excited because Animal Man really, it was way better than I anticipated it being.
Yeah.
So, I was like, oh, this is a fun comic.
Yeah, and Jeff Lemire does not disappoint. He doesn't pull any punches. This is just as fucked up as the original, but it has, in a different way. It's much, much more creepier. It's very much a horror book.
That's cool because you could see some of the places where Grant Morrison was like, oh, this is his power structure, and I was like, oh, it's kind of, some of that was cool. I really dug the he felt the earthworms under there, and so he's able to regrow his
his arm gets ripped off.
Yeah,
and stuff
but you could see where some of that could get even crazier.
Yes, and it does in this. So we're gonna read that. And speaking of our patrons, let's give a shout out to our patrons. Thank you, Otaku Mike, Hoku, and Ed H for supporting us on Patreon. We very much are appreciative of that because it helps us, keep the fire going. It is somewhat hard on a weekly basis to continue, especially if people aren't commenting or giving feedback. You're like, are we just throwing this out into the void and no one cares? So we really appreciate you guys supporting us on Patreon. And if any of you other listeners would like to support us on Patreon, you can go there at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, and you can sign up for that. We have a couple different tiers. Also, if you if you like my Matt's Minis Swamp Things, I have a separate Matt's Minis that's on Patreon only, at least the new episodes, and that is for Hellblazer. So if you like Hellblazer, or you were ever interested in John Constantine and you want to know where he came from, check that out. Right now we're doing a super fan limited price for that, so it's cheaper right now if you get in early on it. So definitely check that out if you want some more in-depth deep dives on John Constantine.
And you can also follow us on all our social media. We got our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. Matt's always pumping them out. We got some.
I'm always pumping them.
He is, and we got some trailer reviews and some mini reviews from one of our other team members, Will. He's doing an Alien run right now, and I got some mini ones out there as well, and we got some more in the pipeline. So let us know what you're enjoying, and with that, I think we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.